I'm 79 years old, and most mornings I wake up already tired, not just in my body but in my memory. There are things I didn't let myself feel for a long time, and now they sit with me in the quiet, waiting their turn. I've outlived a lot of people I once leaned on, and I'm starting to understand that the longest thing I ever lived with wasn't love or work or even loss. It was fear. I don't mean the kind that makes your heart race in a dark alley. I mean the kind that settles into your bones so slowly you think it's just who you are. The kind that tells you to keep your voice low, your hopes smaller, and your expectations carefully folded away so you won't be embarrassed if they don't come true. I didn't notice it for most of my life. I just thought I was being sensible, careful, practical. That's what people called me. But careful can be another word for scared, and scared can become a whole personality if you let it. These days I sit by the window in the mornings, the same one I've been sitting by for years now. The glass has a little crack in the corner that I never bothered to fix. It doesn't really bother me. There are a lot of small cracks in my life I never bothered to fix either. The street outside still wakes up the way it always has. Cars go by, people walk their dogs. Someone down the block always seems to be in a hurry. I watch them and wonder how many of them are already afraid of things they won't realize until they're my age. I wasn't always old, of course. I was a quiet child. My parents used to say I was well-behaved. That was their word for it. I learned early that staying out of the way made life smoother. My father had a temper that came out of nowhere, and my mother was tired in a way that had nothing to do with sleep. So I kept my thoughts to myself. I didn't ask for much. I figured if I didn't make noise, I wouldn't get hurt. That was the first lesson fear taught me. Don't stand out. Don't want too much. Don't give anyone a reason to be disappointed in you. It's funny how something that starts as a way to survive becomes the way you live. I remember being a teenager and feeling things so strongly it almost scared me. I had dreams then, though I didn't call them that. I just knew there were things I wanted to do, places I wanted to see, people I wanted to be. But every time one of those thoughts got too loud, another voice would come in and tell me it was foolish. Who did I think I was? People like me didn't do things like that. People like me stayed where they were and made do. So I stayed. I took the jobs that were offered. I said yes when it was easier than saying no. I let opportunities pass because they felt risky, and I told myself I was being responsible. That word got a lot of use in my life. Responsible. It sounded so grown up. It hid a lot of fear. I met my wife when I was in my 20s. She had a laugh that filled up a room. It made me nervous in a good way. She was the kind of person who said what she thought without apologizing for it. Being around her felt like standing near a fire. Warm, but also a little dangerous if you got too close. I loved her for that. I also quietly tried to make her smaller. I don't think I realized I was doing it at the time. When she talked about moving to another city, I worried out loud about money. When she wanted to try something new, I reminded her of everything that could go wrong. I thought I was protecting us. What I was really doing was protecting my fear. We built a life together that looked fine from the outside. A house, 2 children, dinner at the same time every night. I worked. She did too, though her dreams had a way of shrinking over the years. Sometimes she would look at me with something in her eyes that I couldn't quite name then. I think now it was disappointment mixed with love. That's a hard thing to live with, when someone still loves you but wishes you were braver. Fear made me quiet when I should have spoken. It made me nod when I should have argued. It made me avoid the difficult conversations because I was terrified of what might come out of them. I didn't want to hear that I wasn't enough. I didn't want to hear that I was holding her back. So I kept things calm on the surface and let the deeper things go untouched. Years went by like that. You don't feel time passing when you're busy being careful. You just keep going, thinking you'll deal with things later. Later has a way of becoming never. When my wife got sick, it happened fast. One day she was tired, the next day there were tests, and then suddenly our world was smaller than it had ever been. Hospitals have a way of stripping everything down to what really matters. There isn't much room for fear in those places, but it doesn't always leave. It just changes shape. I sat by her bed and held her hand, and there were so many things I wanted to say. I wanted to tell her I was sorry for all the times I chose safety over her dreams. I wanted to tell her that her courage had always scared me because it reminded me of what I wasn't. But the words stayed in my throat. Fear again. Fear of making her sad. Fear of saying the wrong thing. Fear of breaking something that was already broken. She died without hearing those things. That's a quiet regret that never goes away. It doesn't scream at you. It just sits there heavy and still. After she was gone, the house felt too big and too empty at the same time. Our children had their own lives by then. They called, they visited, but they had learned, in their own way, to be careful too. I see it in them now. The way they hold back. The way they don't quite say what they mean. I wonder how much of that they got from watching me. There's a kind of loneliness that comes from being by yourself, and there's another kind that comes from realizing you were never fully there even when you weren't alone. I felt both. At 79, you don't have much left to lose, at least not in the way you did when you were younger. Your friends are mostly gone. Your body doesn't cooperate. Your future is short enough that you can almost see the end of it. In a strange way, that makes it easier to be honest. Fear doesn't have the same hold on me now. Not because I'm brave, but because it's tired too. We've both been at this a long time. I look back and I see all the small moments where I chose the easier path. The safer one. The quiet one. I see the jobs I didn't take, the trips I didn't go on, the conversations I didn't start. None of those decisions felt big at the time. They were just little steps away from discomfort. But a life is made of little steps. I don't want to pretend it was all bad. There were good days. There were moments of real happiness. My children's first steps. My wife's smile when she was in a good mood. The way the house smelled when we cooked together. Those things mattered. They still do. But they existed alongside a constant holding back, a constant narrowing of what life could be. Fear made me smaller than I needed to be. I think a lot of people don't realize that until it's too late. They think fear is just a feeling that comes and goes. They don't see how it quietly decides their life for them, picks their relationships, picks their routines, picks their regrets. I'm not telling this because I want sympathy. I've had a long life. I've been lucky in many ways. I'm telling it because when you get to be my age, you don't have much left except the truth. And the truth, for me, is that I let fear do too much of the talking. Sometimes I imagine what it would have been like if I had been a little braver. Not some hero. Just a little more willing to be uncomfortable. Maybe my wife would have felt more seen. Maybe my children would have learned to speak more freely. Maybe I would have a few more memories that make me smile instead of sigh. But imagining doesn't change anything now. It just helps me understand. But imagining doesn't change anything now. It just helps me understand. So I sit by my cracked window and watch the world go by, and I think about all the people out there who don't yet know how quiet fear can be. How it doesn't always shout. Sometimes it just whispers, telling you to wait, to be careful, to not rock the boat. And if you listen to it long enough, you wake up one day and realize your whole life has been shaped by what you were too afraid to try. I don't have many days left. I can feel that in my bones too. When I'm gone, this will just be another story that disappears with me. But maybe, if someone listens, it will land somewhere useful. At 79, I finally understand how fear quietly shaped my whole life. I wish I had understood it sooner.